So I wanted to just make it all authentic for you guys and just vent my frustration with something that I think goes really untalked about, unnoticed. I think maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure there's corners of the internet of PPC nerds talking about this stuff, but it's gonna be very Google Ads specific. So, well, not really. I mean, but I'm gonna focus it on Google Ads. So what I want to get into, Michael, that really frustrates me is to the uninformed, which in Google Ads expertise is surprisingly many.
Yes.
There is this thing called modeled conversions, right? Now, modeled conversions is very deceptive. And let me give you an example to really paint the picture. So, what was it? Late last week, I was with a consulting client. We were doing a sort of live, quick snapshot audit of the account, not super deep analysis. But when I was in the search terms reports, and I was going in there, and the client was mentioning how their cost per conversion doesn't look right. Something just doesn't seem right when they're in the search terms reports. They were kind of going through and trying to figure out really high cost search terms that were just wasting money, had a really bad CPA, whatever. Okay, cool. So we're looking at it together, and they go, see, yeah, look at that right there. Cost per conversion, it shows, I think it was like, I don't know, maybe like $100. Or no, sorry, it was $20. It was a $20 CPA, but the search term that we were looking at and filtering for showed $1,000 in the spend in the date range we're looking at and 10 conversions. Okay. So you don't have to be a math genius here to realize that $20 is not a cost per acquisition for it should be $100, right? The $1,000 divided by 10. So what's going on here, right? Like, is Google lying about the data? So this was the misunderstanding that I think really illuminated this topic for me to bring to you guys, to say, like, wait, I don't think most people realize that these metrics, conversion rate included, as well as some other metrics, these include modeled conversions. In other words, conversions Google could not see due to privacy restrictions, technical limitations.
Yeah, wow.
How deceiving is this for how many advertisers that do not realize that these are modeled conversions where these estimated derived metrics are coming from? So you might think, oh yeah, like, because you're briefly looking at it, you're not a data science expert or a data analyst or whatever. You're just saying, yeah, it looks like these search terms, just as an example at this data layer, are getting us $20 CPAs. No worries here. Moving on. Yeah. But if you had just looked at cost column and the conversions column and just said, wait a minute, that doesn't add up, you would have investigated. And honestly, even then, it's a little bit deceiving, because you might look at the documentation. I actually pulled it up. I'm not going to be able to screen share because it's got client information on the screen. But if you hover over cost divided by conversion, the cost per conversion metric in the Google Ads UI, the first sentence you'll see is cost per conversion shows the average cost of a conversion. It's your cost divided by conversion. Great, right? That's exactly what I thought it was.
Yeah.
However, go 2 sentences down, and yeah, I'm really leaning into this because I think it's a little bit deceptive, and I'm not saying that Google's doing this on purpose. Michael will definitely say that, but it's a little bit sneaky. 2 sentences down, it says the cost in this metric only includes ad interactions that could lead to conversions. In other words, if they didn't think that it was cost data that would lead to a conversion, they're not actually going to include it in this particular metric. How deceptive is that?
Whoa.
I mean, so this is something I think just really goes unnoticed, because we just assume that it's just a division problem that you're looking at, cost, right? And conversions, blah, blah, blah. Conversion rate, same thing. If we look at it, it says ad interactions include clicks for text ads and views from video ads. This metric only includes interactions that could lead to conversions. Michael, how ridiculous is this?
Yeah. So just to confirm, in this case, they were under attributing spend or over.
Well, it depends on the metric.
Yeah. So in that case, it sounded like if you spent $1,000, but then it said the CPA was $20 and you only had 10 conversions, it should be $200 spend. So has it gone out of that $1,000, we only attribute $200 towards what's happened, that other $800 just, it's
just
not relevant.
Vanishes into real world. Yeah. Well, we couldn't model that data. So yeah.
Or did it think that there was an additional, let's say there's 10 leads, 50 leads, so 50 times 20 is 1,000. Do they model an additional 40 leads or 4x additional potential conversion? So do you reckon they over-attributed Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd love to.
this
Yeah.
is
Okay.
the
This
this
is
is the modeled conversions topic. This is what's so interesting about this is how are they allowed to do this first off? Because this should be a lot more clear. I think if
yeah.
anything, it should say cost divided by modeled conversions, not cost per
Yes.
conversion, because those are two different things. Like it's too
Yes.
deceiving. So conversion rate, that's another example. And just to really paint the picture, if it's not obvious at this point, if you were to just create a custom column, which I did in this case, almost just for humor purposes, create a custom
Yes.
column, just call it real CPA. The cost per
Yeah. I've
conversion, I
actually
think,
had
was
to
like,
do that for clients before, by the way. But yes,
you got,
in other ways, but yes.
so you see when you do that, cost per conversion, I'm looking at right now, cost per conversion, $235. Oh, okay, for this client, it's actually not a bad deal.
Yeah.
Real CPA, $1,481, $1,481
Yeah.
if you
Wow.
actually do the clear division of cost divided by conversion. So, folks, this is a whole big deal. And again, I think this is really tricky, and most people will not notice this unless they are pulling the data into something else and creating and calculating those metrics themselves. They're going to really be
Yeah.
tricked into thinking their cost per conversion, their return on ad spend, their conversion rates are something else than they actually are in reality, because these are based on modeled conversions. So that gets me into what is going on here. What are these modeled conversions? So Google can only see what Google can see, right? So there's going to be privacy
Wow.
restrictions, there's going to be technical limitations, devices, browsers, etc. Model conversions are Google's estimate. They're essentially estimated, generated estimates for conversions. So when the direct observation of the conversions is not possible per Google's documentation due to those privacy restrictions, technical limitations, they're going to give modeled conversions. So obviously the aim is to give them more people, everybody like this more, I guess, comprehensive view of campaign performance. They don't want, people under attributing what's happening. And so just understand that these are
So
not
just make it up.
conversions.
You don't want
Yeah,
to
so let's just make it
under-attribute,
up.
so let's just make it up. Like data
Michael,
modeling. What is this data being
Michael,
modeled off? Just data modeling. Our
it's just,
AIs, we don't
we don't
understand
know.
it. It's
Yeah.
smarter than us.
So, Michael, I did the calculation. I was like, okay, I'm just curious for this client because it's
Yeah.
in the medical device space. I was like, okay, I wonder what percent of these conversions are modeled versus not. Right.
Wow.
So 99% modeled
Whoa.
conversions for these derived metrics inside the UI. 99%. In other words, only 1% is what's, if you were to do the real calculations yourself offline, you were to pull that data out, you'd be
Yeah.
seeing a dramatically different derived metric across
Man,
the board.
this almost seems serendipitous because I've been releasing a lot of content recently on the MarketLead channel about using your offline data as your data source. So like not trusting the ad platforms. For example, let's just say you're pulling in data from Meta and Google Ads and it says you got 200 leads, but you're like, I only got like 120 this month. Like where are those extra 80? It's because the channels over attribute. And that's if you're pulling up the raw conversion data. And that's why I always suggest use your offline, like your in-platform clicks, impressions, cost data, like as your raw, and then
Mhm.
you use your offline data for your lead source data and sales, and then you bring them in. But this is another angle that is literally, I think this might be the biggest controversy in ads ever, because this is extremely misleading. Because
Extremely.
you think
Yeah.
about uh, most people don't know about this. I didn't know about this. And now it makes sense because it's like, why do so many companies over time go, the numbers in the account look good, but our business is showing different
Mm-hmm.
numbers or different revenue attributed to it? And, sometimes the variance that I see in accounts that we do in terms of in-platform lead numbers versus offline data where we've got the UTM strings, it's usually about like 8 to 10%. But that's still a big variance in any company. But this, when it's 99% modeled. So just to confirm, Cory,
Mm-hmm.
just to make this really clear for a simpleton like me,
Sure.
when you're looking at the numbers, let's just say one search term said it spent $1,000
Mm-hmm.
and then it said it had only 10 conversions. That
Mm-hmm.
$1,000 is still correct.
Yep.
That 10 conversions is still
Conversions is
correct.
still correct.
But that,
Yep.
let's just say it goes to a $20. It should be, and in that case, it should be $100 CPA because 1,000 divided by 10 is 100, simple maths. But then next to it, it would just randomly say like $20. So like 4 times, 20% of that original value. So it was it was in the cost per conversion where they'd been doing the messy work. It wasn't the conversion column where it said you got 10 conversions, but you'd really only got one. Had they overinflated in the conversion column as well, or is it just the cost per conversion column?
No. So the conversions column does show the number of conversions you received from whatever, the video ads or the text
But were
ad
they
clicks or
modeled, or
whatever.
were they just like the kind of, as Google measures it,
No.
as
That's
normal?
as Google measures it. Yeah, if you were to add a segment for conversion action, you'll see that it lines up with whatever conversion action is in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. But it's just
It's
the cost per conversion,
Well,
and then
it's some
natural.
of the derived metrics like conversion rates. This metric includes
Yeah.
only interactions that could lead to conversions. And it's 3 sentences into the description. It should be like disclaimer in red, like modeled
Yes.
conversions. It doesn't. It
This
just
is
says, yeah, this
wild.
is what it is. It's
Now,
absolutely crazy.
this was on, you mentioned it's on search term level. If you brought it up to the keyword ad group campaign level, did it move
Yeah,
up?
it's going to be there's so many layers, as you know, to the reporting. I'm sure there's plenty of instances where this is going to be. I didn't take the time to investigate every little layer
Yeah.
because I'm creating the derived metrics outside of that. But I think this is my point was just to say, if you are looking at derived metrics inside of the UI, no
Yeah.
matter what layer you're looking at, campaigns, ad groups, whatever, make sure you are really clear on how that calculation is derived. And in this case,
Wow.
most people, I don't think, realize there's some modeled conversions going on in there. So, Michael, real quick, I actually want to read when you go into cost per conversion, like we're talking about, and then you say learn more. If you go in there, there's a whole section. This is, of course, how Google can get away with this because legally, hey, we told you so. If you just looked into it
We
yourself.
told you in the read more, the learn
Yeah,
more section.
that nobody goes into. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it says conversions and related columns, right? Important. The conversions column shows you the number of conversions you've received across your conversion actions. Okay. Conversions are measured with conversion tracking and may include modeled conversions in cases where you are not able to observe all conversions took place. You can use this column to view how often your ads led to customers to actions that you've defined as valuable to your business. That is crazy to me. I get why they're doing it. They don't want people to undervalue, like in this case, a search term that, based on their modeling, is getting a lot more conversions than we can actually track. So let's just go ahead and say the cost per conversion is this.
Yeah.
But I think, Google, if you are listening, you need to put a modeled somewhere around that metric column name. You can't just put cost per conversion. That is so deceptive. It needs to say modeled.
Yeah.
I don't care if that's just MOD abbreviated, make it small and concise, but it is so deceiving if you don't do that. Personally, I think that that's wrong.
Yeah.
No.
I definitely think that there should be multiple layers to this. Number one, there should be like an account setting where you opt in for it. It's not like a default.
Right.
You get to opt in. So you're consciously deciding. Number two is they should just turn it into another column, which is cost per conversion, or like conversions and conversions, including modeled conversions, cost per conversion, and then cost per conversions, including modeled.
Right.
And then also allowing in like those reports or those alternative reports, just for you to have a graph or a table similar to where you look at the assisted conversions and the time lag, something like that, where it shows like your reporting based, like comparing modeled versus non-modeled. Sorry, like conversions raw, I'll call it raw, and the conversions with including modeled. But it's just unfair. Like it's actually just unfair for everyone because it's just misleading because ultimately Google would justify saying, oh, we're doing this because we feel like people's tracking is getting worse and because they're missing all these data points, that it's not enriching the data enough, and we don't want people to, make decisions in the accounts that are negative. That's how they'll justify it. It's always for other people. Reality is they want people to have Google to have as much attribute to any sort of action, so then it makes it look like, well, Google's getting our cost per lead for $20. Let's just put 200 grand into it. Like it's just trying to go shortcut the old oh, this number looks good, let's put more money into it, because that's how business owners operate. They go, this area of my business is getting a low cost per lead, a low cost per sale, a high return, put more money into it. It's just like a very cause and effect. They're not going, how's the data being modeled? How's our data accuracy? How are we tracking it? What percentage of our data is actually being captured? Is it 90%? Is it 50% because of the industry we're in, or because of the platforms we use, or most of our users are on mobile on this device and this browser which blocks the cookies off? Like they're not doing that. They're just going, oh, we spent this much here, we got this much return, let's put more money in. And the reality is, like, on for an agency level, it's going to make them look better because it's going to
Of
make the
course.
data look better.
Yeah.
It's not going to make us look like, as in terms of MarketLead, because most of our reporting with our clients is actually using offline lead data and offline
Mhm.
sales data that has that's had a UTM attributed to it, which means there's a source attributed to it. So when we're measuring results, it's very like, you spent this much from in platform, and these
Mhm.
are how many offline like leads you actually got. Like, you got 10 leads, like you actually received 10 leads, not like 12 that Google said, or 13. And we know that it came from Google or Facebook or the appropriate channel as well. I think
Mhm.
people really miss out on these things. And this is going to be another one of those gaps in business that, when someone like you doesn't like finds this out, you get that edge, because you're like, now we need to do a different sort of analysis. And then all your competitors are just going to be like, no, we're killing it. We're killing it. But they're slowly dying. It's
Yeah.
like people who are like, yeah, I'm like, I was hungry and then I'm eating a lot of sugar, and like, yeah, now I'm full. But it's like, the sugar will kill you. Like these false numbers, like those false calories and sugar will kill you.
Yeah.
That's what's wild about this. Man, this is I'm gonna have to go really deep with this, because this
Yeah.
changes a lot. Now,
It's
once again, the
crazy.
benefit that I've really set up in the company is that we don't use the in-platform data as much anymore
Right.
for many clients, which is like,
Yeah.
I've just done that purely just based on like, it's more of like an IP strategic play. But now more than ever, I'm like, fuck, we've got to really be on top of this.
And just to really rub it in here, and my issue with this as far as transparency, and to your question about how many levels does that apply to and inside the accounts in terms of data layers, I am seeing I just looked at conversion rate and cost per conversion at the campaign, ad group, ads, products, keywords, and search term level, and all of them are using the description of this metric only includes
There we go.
interactions that could lead to conversions.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Wow. So, Corey, we've brought the information to the people and
Yes.
the people. What do you think the next step is? Like, is it really just creating new custom columns, at least starting off with creating custom columns for real
Yeah, good question.
conversions, real conversion rate, and real cost per conversion?
Yeah, if you're comfortable, just work. You like working in the UI, you like analyzing the data in there. Just maybe for the because you don't have a lot of technical expertise, or you just for the speed of it, or it just works for you, whatever. Well, then yeah, I would. First thing I would do is create some custom columns if you want to make it real, whatever, real CPA, real
Yeah.
conversion rate, whatever. I think that's a good idea. Call it whatever you want, or unmodeled if you want to be more technical.
Yes.
But just yeah, I think again, real big point to take away is always understand how a derived metric, like a calculated
Yeah.
metric, is being derived. Don't just trust the name of the column. So that's really important. But yeah, I would start there, and then if you're someone that creates derived metrics through the API or inside of Google Sheets or wherever you create your dashboards, you're reporting from, just be careful about using the derived metrics that are coming from those data sources. I would
Yeah.
really encourage people to create their own derived metrics from the actual metrics themselves, from the
Yeah.
sum metrics.
Interesting. Now, just to ask again, Corey, when you look at the conversions column, because I'm not looking at it right
Mm-hmm.
now, does it
Sure.
say conversions include the modeled one? So if you create your, or is it just
Yeah,
the,
it's yeah. So I'll read it to you. It's conversions shows the number of conversions you received after ad interactions from all actions you've included in this column. The included conversion setting for each action determines if the action's conversions are included here. Smart bidding optimizes the conversions in this column. Doesn't say anything about modeled conversions, but
yeah,
if you click into learn more, there is a section on the model conversions. So conversions are measures with conversion tracking. You can use different tracking processes, blah, blah, blah. Conversions can be tracked across different surfaces, such as mobile or desktop, and may include modeled conversions.
there we go.
Model conversions use data that does not identify individual users to estimate conversions that Google is unable to observe directly. This can offer a more complete report of your conversions. That is their sell point for doing this.
Yeah.
This can offer a more complete report of your conversions. So yeah, it's very important, guys, to just consider all of these things that are actually going into the metrics you're looking at. It is
Yeah.
probably including model. Now, just to reiterate though, you may or may not have modeled conversions, right? It's a maybe. If Google
Yes.
can't see, I think it's very obvious that more often than not you're going to have modeled conversions in there. And if we want to dive deeper into it, we can get into the modeled conversions documentation. There is literally a whole page just about that. So anyway,
Yeah.
yes.
Look, if Google was just to do this appropriately, they should know that, let's just say you get 100 clicks from your ads and they go to 100 users' browsers, and then they model that, 70% of them they can track and 30% they can't. I know this is not like, there comes to a point of statistical significance. They should make that 30% represent the conversion rate of that other 70. But they're probably not. I can guarantee, if you're telling me that 99% of those conversions are not modeled, it's not because 99% of the users' browsers are not tracking. It's pretty crazy. And this is where, when you pick up, like when you start working with a new account, if you're building it up from scratch, one of the first things you do is you make sure all the conversion tracking is done properly, being it the base pixels or base codes, and then also the conversion tracking. If you're auditing an ad account, the first thing you should do is just look at, hey, is the conversion tracking done properly? Because when you review any account, you're always looking at the outcome-based data, being at the conversion rates, the cost per conversion, how many conversions they got, regardless, and the revenue. If that's off, the input that you're going to give in your opinion or your insights or your recommendations is going to be off as well. That's why the first thing, and it seems more and more now, is like data purity is probably the most important things, more important than like strategic ideas. Because if the data is incomplete or false, no matter how good you are, you're trying to fix something that's broken. Like you can't fix where what's the trying to phrase I'm trying to say? It's basically you just can't fix it because like you're trying to fix something over here when it's realistically over there. And it's just like whatever you do, no matter how perfect you do it, you'll never do it perfectly. And I think this is a really important thing that people need to recognize now, that even the raw data that Google provides, even if you set up all the tracking perfectly, you know that the code's on all the pages and then your tracking's done perfectly, you've got the best developer in the world, still it will be incorrect and incomplete because there will be browsers who don't have it. And then Google's like, yeah, well, we've got to model it. We can't just like leave this abyss of data,
Yeah.
Unfair.
It's crazy. Michael, I just shared with you these. Would you mind doing a screen share? We can cover really quick and wrap this up on what modeled conversions are for people. I'm sure this is going to get some people's heads spinning, and they're going to want to know. Okay. That is the link. So if you guys
that is the link,
and let me.
I'll bring this up, guys.
Okay. This is, I should also mention when you pull data from the Google Ads API, you're going to get the same, like you're going to get the real. So when you calculate the conversions divided by the cost, you're going to get the real CPA when you use those sum metrics. But still, to Michael's point, how many of those conversions are modeled? It'd be nice to get a little like metric in there that we could really see.
Well, maybe the way, Cory, you're going to have to do it is just like, once again, you're going to have to use offline data. That's why you need to be tracking your offline data and be using UTMs and not just the Google Click ID, and definitely not trusting Google Analytics. You've actually got to know that data from your backend CRM that should be capturing that. And then you can just do a basic export and look at it on a whole level. How many leads did we get from Google Ads actually versus what the platform said? And then you could even go down based on a campaign level, because your UTM should be showing your campaign, and then looking at what campaigns specifically are driving that. And then even to some points, maybe even placements as well. Like, are there certain placements that are causing that?
So Michael, real quick on this page, the third paragraph, look at that first sentence right there.
This one?
Yeah. So when Google surfaces, I love that word they use, surfaces modeled conversions, we're predicting attributed conversions. In other words, guys, not real conversions. They're predicted. We all know how that goes with predictions.
In most cases, Google will receive ad interactions and online conversions, but it is still missing the linkage between the two. Our modeling determines whether Google ad interactions led to the online conversion. It doesn't determine whether or not the conversion happened. Well, then why are we doing it? We want to be converting. We want to be measuring when something happens, not when we think it happens, when it actually happens.
Yeah. So just like underline is some of your conversions are make believe, probably, because they're
Yes.
modeled. They're not what actual. I mean, again, I understand why they're doing it, and obviously they want people to spend more on Google, and they want performance to look better than it maybe is. But understand it's not necessarily a sale that's occurred there.
Yeah. See, they say the benefits of modeling online conversion. They don't say the potential downsides or the
What are the
cons, which
pitfalls?
usually is needed when you need to like weigh these things up. And once again, a
So true.
holistic measurement across all of your ad traffic gain a more accurate picture of your advertising outcomes and complete picture of the
Accurate.
conversion paths across
Is it accurate?
devices and channels. Doubt it. This
I
is the
love the word
one.
accurate.
This is the one, Corey, we were talking about before. Efficient campaign optimization. Model
Yeah.
conversions help you optimize your campaigns more effectively and achieve better business results. Privacy regulations and technology limitations mean that we lose observation for certain cohorts of users.
Mm-hmm.
This
Mm-hmm.
means that our automation bidding algorithms will need to make optimizations based on incomplete data,
Yeah.
resulting in biased learning. Well, what about the way? What's more? I'd prefer to have something make decisions based on a smaller sample size of incomplete but accurate data than falsely enriched data. That's just like
Yeah.
it's just like going into woo woo land at that point.
It's a good debate. Yeah, yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah, because you could
As a
go either way
result,
with it. Yeah.
well, yeah, I think. Look, I think a lot of people who are actually good at this type of stuff, they're like, I want to be making decisions based on real data,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's less like because in any area of business, you'll never have full transparency on every single bits of
Yeah.
data. So this is another case. Just because it's digital and you used to have more transparency doesn't mean that like now it's like you need to make up stuff. It just means you've
But
got to
Michael,
adapt towards it and maybe get more conversion data in terms of actual real volume rather than just going, well, there's a smaller sample size, so therefore let's just make stuff up.
well, I was going to say though, and then the next couple lines mention this is so important if you're using automated bidding, which most people are or felt like they
Yeah.
were kind of forced into. The models, those algorithms are going to use the modeled conversions. They're
Yeah.
not cheapening that. I mean, they're saying it right here. Modeling solves for these biases and corrects them. Where is it right there? Yeah. So right there, you just had it. Yeah, they have a
Yeah.
lower reported performance, leading to overall poorer performance by the bidder. So yeah, Google's going to say, well, we want to give our algorithms more data to work with, even if it's artificial data, essentially. And our models predict, who knows with what degree of accuracy. Like, what's the p-value here? Like, what are you guys actually
Yeah.
going off? Is it 80% confidence? Is it 60% confidence? We have no transparency on that. Could be 20%. They're just like, yeah, I think there might be some conversions here. Who knows? We just think so. We have a hunch. Let's go with it. Let's feed the algorithm with that. Meaning your smart bidding could be going off the rails and you're wondering why, and it's
Yeah.
because the modeled conversions are just super inaccurate. It's very possible, but you won't be able to see that. There's no transparency there. It's really
Yeah, this
unfortunate.
is hectic. Just have a look here. Yeah, this is hectic. Look, mate, I think this is something that everyone needs to look into.
Yep,
And yeah, this is bad.
it's bad. We don't want this. We want
We don't want
transparency.
this.
Allow me to
Excellent.
at least choose use modeled, don't use modeled. If I get worse performance, at least I'll know that it's based on real data and not modeled artificial.